everybody. Good morning. Here we go. I'm going to do it. All right. So today's Daf Ein Ches and Ein Tes. So we're going to try and get ahead. We'll start with yesterday's blot. We left off at the two dots on top of Ein Ches and Aleph. Once again, discussing what carrying in different things as to what one would be chayav for with different materials. So we said water. As the quote from the Mishnah says, "Mine kadei lashu b'hem es kilor." Water in order to mix with this kilor mix in order to some sort of a medication for the eye. So, and that is the amount of water that one carries, which is chashuv, and therefore one it would be chayiv. So, it's a small amount that is used to mix. Amar bai semichtei. Let's see. Kol milsa d'shchichi v'lashchichi azar banan basar shchichi. L'kula. We have in general anything that is common and uncommon, let's say to carry, right? Or to its usage, right? Is common and uncommon. We always do the common one, even if it's a larger amount and it'll end up in a kula, right? Because if you carry the smaller amount, you'll be patur. And shchichi v'leshchichi, if there's two usages that are common and one is larger than the other, in such a case, then if they're both common, then azra bana basar shchichi, right? L'chumra. Then they'll go after the smaller shear, which is l'chumra, to say that you'll even be carrying out the smaller shear. So, for example, yayin, when it comes to wine, when it comes to wine, drinking is common, right? And using it for refuah to mix it with with the salve in order to cure, that's not common. So therefore, azar bana basar shitas the shchicha. Therefore, the Rabbanan go after the amount the larger amount, which is to drink, and which entails is a kula because it's a larger minimum requirement. But nevertheless, since that's the common usage, therefore we'll go after the common. And same thing by cholav, by milk. When it comes to milk, it's eating or the drinking of it is common. Using for refuah is not common. So there's such a case. The Rabbanan go after its usage of eating or consuming it for the kula and devash, let's say by honey. So it's used both. Eating it is just as common as using it for refuah to put over a wound. So in such a case, we have two commons. The Rabbana used a smaller amount, which is the refuah, to put it on the mouth of a wound. So let's look at our case of water. Understand, water, its common usage is drinking is common. Using it for refuah is not as common to mix it with the salve. So why do we say it's the smaller shear? We should go after the common one. So my time, what's the reason why the Rabbanan went after the refuah for the chumrah? The glila shanu. We're talking about in the Galil. In the Galil, since they were very poor, therefore they were very they didn't waste anything, and therefore they were very careful not to waste anything, and therefore it was even also common to go ahead and that which when they would use water, they would also only use it for the refuah, and therefore they wouldn't use other liquids for refuah, only use water. Therefore, the water was commonly used for refuah, and since using it for refuah and for shti were both l'chumra, both common, therefore they went l'chumra. And Rava Amar Afilu Tem B'Sham Eklam Yisrael inside the places like Shmuel, Damar Shmuel Kol Shkani Masu Matalu Lebar Mivaya Damasu V'Loy Metatli. All the other liquids, if you go ahead and use it for a salve, then it would have a lasting effect on the eye. There would be like a film above the eye. Except for water, if you mixed it with the medication, there would be no lasting effect on the eye. So therefore, it wasn't like the other liquids that you can use any liquids you want. Rather, this was the only preferred usage of, I guess, for this refuah, and therefore it would be considered to be common because no other liquids were used for the eye except for water. The shar kol mashkin b'revis, and we say other types of mashkin are a revis. So taner rabbanan, dam. So all the other liquids are the minimum amount is revis, and we'll soon see. So taner rabbanan, dam v'chol mini mashkin. Revis, blood, and all the different types of liquids are a revis. You have to carry a revis in order to be chayav. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer dam kadei lachol ba'ay nachas. Right? Now, blood, in order to go ahead and basically apply it to one eye, shechen kochelas lebarkis. They used to go ahead and use it for barkis to use I guess, some sort of wound on the eye. They would go ahead and, I guess, apply blood to it. And what type of blood is that? Down to the tarnagolas, right? That was a blood of a hen. bara, I guess a wild one. And Rosh Hashanah Amir, dom kadei lachobol ayin achas, blood. They used to go ahead for ayin achas shechein koichlin liyared. They used to go ahead and apply blood because blood, I guess, was used. A specific type of blood was used for an injury to a cataract. And what type of blood is that? That's dama de karshonisa, de karushtina, right? The karushtina, which is like a mole, the simanach, and that was using a mole's blood to apply to the eye. That would help with the cataract. The simanach, the way to remember is gavila gavim, bara la bara, right? That which is in the inside is in the inside. That which is in the outside, the outside. In other words, the outside injury to the eye. That was used by hen's blood, which is the wild hens or turkeys, or right, those are outside the town, as opposed to moles that are inside the town. Those would be used for the inside of the eye, more or less the cataract. B'med murim. Now, so Gemara says a funny lashon, and we're going to explain it. B'med murim, b'maitzi. We're talking about taking out aval b'matzniya kol shu chayiv. But a person to go ahead and matzniya, right, and save it. Right, such a person who goes ahead and saves it, a kol shu chayiv, any amount is chayiv. And Rabbi Shimon ben Aimer b'medvar murim b'matzniya. We're only talking about he who saves it, about b'maitzi, but taking out eno chayiv el revis. You're only chayiv for revis. So the Gemara seems to be right. So and the Moedim Chachamim, however, the Chachamim agree. The Rabbi Shimon b'maitzi shayv chil v'shisarabim shashir b'revis. That the Chachamim agree to the Rabbi Shimon. When one goes ahead and takes out that which is normally poured out, the Rosh Hashanah, that the shear is a revis. Now, the Gemara wants to know, Amar Mar. Now we have to explain this brayso that we just read. So, right?
What's matzniya?
So matzniya usually means a person's matzniya is someone who saves something. In other words, that's considered to be chashuv enough that you save it. In other words, it's a larger amount that's savable, right? You don't just throw it away, right? So it's something which is, if something is worth saving, that shows there is chashivas to it. And then perhaps if there's a chashivas to it, therefore one would be chayiv for carrying it. So the Gemara seems to separate, or the Brisa seems to separate saving it, matzniya, and moitzi, and taking it out. So the Gemara says, taking it out, matzniya, kolshu, any amount. So the Gemara says, atu matzniya, lav moitzihu. You're not chayiv for saving something. You're chayiv for if you save something and then you carry it. So how can you separate matzniya and moitzi? Why are you saying we're only talking about matzniya but not moitzi? How could you be? You're not chayiv for being matzniya. You're chayiv for being moitzi. No, here's what we're talking about. The Talmud she'amar l'rabba, right? So you have a rebbe who tells a student, "Leichu panalim hamakom l'suda." Go ahead and find me a place for me to eat. Halach and food. So halach upanaloi davar chashuv, and he went ahead and he cleared him a space and he got him a davar chashuv. So the something which is, I guess, eaten or used by all chayiv ala, right? Then he would be chayiv for it, for taking it out. However, davar sheino chashuv the kol. But if it's something that is not considered to be chashuv to all, if the Rav, the Rebbe over there, would have been matzniya, such an item, such a food, then mechayiv aleha. Then he would be mechayiv for being moitzi that, because his Rebbe would be matzniya. The ilov, if not, lo mechayiv. Right? If not, he wouldn't be mechayiv. So now, if he took something out that even to him wasn't chashuv, but his Rebbe would have been matzniya, then he would be chayiv for being moitzi. And Omar Mar Maidim Chachamim Rabbi Shimon the Maitzi Sheivchin L'Shizram Shir B'Revis. So then it said in the Brayso, so the Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Shimon, right? If one who takes out the Sheivchin, that which is poured out, which is a rabbin, that the shear is revis. So Sheivchin L'May Chazu. What good is water or liquids that's going to be spilled out? Why should that be chashuv? What would you use that for? So Rabbi Yirmiyah Legabo B'Havasati. Go ahead and to use it to mix it with clay, right? With clay, in order to knead it, to make it usable clay. The amount of clay is the amount to go ahead and fill the, I guess, the opening of a core, right? Which is like I actually had to Google it, right? As a crucible was, I guess, used to help melt down metals, right? And it's heated up, so it's the mouth of a pikur. Right, so it's a smaller amount. It's not just right. So it's not a revis. It's a much smaller amount. So is a small amount of clay. So when it comes to kneading, so in order to knead, right, then you need the amount of a revis, because a person's not going to go ahead and knead a very small amount, all right, to make clay. But once you have clay, then what's a chashuv clay? That is the small amount of a pikur. So in other words, if it's, and we're going to soon see the svara later on today. If it's the amount that the person has to go ahead and do work to go ahead and make clay, then you're only going to make amount with a revius of water. But once the clay was already needed, then the chashuv amount is even smaller than that. It's even the size of the pikur. Because a person's not going to go ahead through all that tircha, all that effort just to make one small piece of clay. He'll only start making clay with a minimum of the amount of a revius. Fine. So now in Mishnah. Mishnah says, Hamaitzi chevel. Now we're going to go through different materials. We're going to have a long list of materials, and the Gemara will go through them one by one. So we're not going to explain all of the reasons in the Mishnah, but the Gemara will go through them. So Hamaitzi chevel kadei lasas eisen lekupa. So when it comes to rope, rope is in order to make a handle for a basket. To make a handle for a basket, right? You have a basket, and the handle on top is made of rope, and that rope is the amount of rope that can be used to make a handle of a basket, then you're chai for carrying at least that amount or more. But if it's less than that, then you'd be putter for taking it out. You would not be chai of a korban. Gemi, and if let's say it's like a reed, right? The grass. Then, in order to make basically a talay l'napa l'kivra, to make like a hook or something on the edge of the sieve or whatever thing is, in order to hang it, right? So no little piece to hang it, which is smaller than a rope. No, I guess the reed is even can be go ahead and use it to measure the foot of a child. That was used for a foot of a child. I guess that is the amount to be chayav for. Niyar. Paper, right, to write on it, alav kasher muchsin, right? So niyar, in order to, I guess, which was made from grass on a papyrus or whatever it is, as Rashi points out, it was made from grass, right? In order to write a kasher muchsin, right, a tax receipt, right, or a tax receipt. If it's a large enough for a tax receipt to be written upon, then one will be chayiv for it. V'hamaitzi kasher muchsin chayiv. And why? Because one who goes ahead and takes out a kasher muchsin, right, a tax receipt is chayiv. We'll soon explain that also. The Gemara will go into that. And niyar machuk. Let's say it's a paper that once you erase on paper, you can no longer write on it again. So let's say it was paper that was already written upon, and therefore you erased it. You can no longer write on it. So you can't write anything on it. So what about that? So kadei lachuk alatzluchi ketana shel plumis shel plaito. Right, in order they can go ahead and basically wrap it around a flask of oil, or a flask of balsam oil. So therefore it has to be large enough because it's no longer used for writing, which is much smaller. So it'll be larger. This paper can be used basically as a cover for this flask. And or hide kedelasas kamea, and for leather, right, or hide, in order to make an amulet. And skip the parentheses. Klaf kadei lichtoiv alav parsha ketana shebetfilin. Shehi Shema Yisrael. And klaf, when it comes to klaf, we'll soon see the types of parchment, right? There's a klaf and duchstus, right? So when it comes to this type of klaf, right, then is the minimum amount of the klaf is in order to write the small paragraph of Shema Yisrael, right, which includes v'hafta. And when it comes to ink, ink, when it comes to writing 2 letters, and kachol, right? And when it comes to like mascara eye paint, kadei lochel eye nachas, in order to color one eye, and devek and glue kadei litium beroish hashafshaf, to go ahead and put it on the head of a board. Zeves, the gafris, like pitch or tar, kadei laasais nekev, in order to go ahead and make a hole. And shava, wax, kadei litium al pinekev, kadam, to put it overhead and put it on fill up a small hole. And charsis is crushed or broken down brick. Pikur shel zav, right? Enough to go ahead and make the hole once again of this crucible for those who make gold, I guess, or melting down gold. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer kadei lasas pitput, right? Also, pitput is also a tripod that's used also to put the crucible upon, I guess, when they're melting metals. And subin kadei leitoch al pi kur shel tzorfei zav, right? Subin is bran. In order, I guess, not used for eating, right? In order to put, I guess, smaller amount can be used even when you put on the tip of those who make gold. And seed, right? Seed is lime, and it's used to remove hair. Kadei lasud katana shebanois, in order to go ahead And for the youngest of the banos, and Rabbi Yehuda says Kadei Lasa is kilkul, right? In order to do a kilkul, to perhaps do it over here, to remove the hair, to wipe the lime there. And Rabbi Yomer Kadei Losud undefi, right? On the head, that's another area that's used to go ahead and remove the hair. And we'll get to that, each of these cases in the Gemara. But let's start off with the beginning of when the Gemara says, first item in the Mishnah was rope. All right, so he says, why didn't you say rope is smaller shear in order to make a hook when it comes to, you can hang up the sieve or these other things? Why does it dafka have to be a reed? Right? Maybe a rope, you can use a smaller amount to use that. So since I guess it's tougher and it could scratch or damage the kli itself, therefore people don't use it for hanging up their sifter or their sieve. So Taner Rabbanan, Hutzin Kedei Lasais Oizen Lasal. So we say when it comes to Hutzin, right? There's Hutzin are like they're made from like palm leaves, right? In order to make a handle for a basket, right? Made of kfivu mitzers, right? Made of also certain types of palm leaves and sieve. When it comes to, I guess, the sieve that's around the palm tree itself, right? If you have that, then it's in order to basically put it on top of the top of a funnel, and then you go ahead and you pour the sanis yayin to go ahead and pour wine in it. So in other words, basically it's like sort of porous, and you pour the wine into it, and it contains the sediment. So that is a usage, right? That is a usage for the this type of material, this thing that goes around the palm tree, right? And rechav, which is like grease, kadei losuch tachas ispagin katana, to go ahead and put on a small wafer underneath it when you go ahead and you bake it. The kamashira, and how much is that? How much is a small wafer? Kasela, like the amount of a sella. So any of these materials, these are minimum amounts of those materials. It says over there by the grease, it has to be amount of a grogras. So both the amount to go ahead and for a sella, and to go ahead and a grogras, a dried fig, and also that of a sella is really the same shear. And muchin, when it comes to cotton, kadelasas kadur katan, make a small ball of a kamashir, and how much is that? It goes like the size of a nut. Fine. Now 2 dots. So then we said niyar, when it comes to paper, kadelichtola kesher muchsin, in order to go ahead and write a kesher muchsin. So now the Gemara gets into this sugya. So Tana, so kama kesher muchsin. How large is a kesher muchsin? How large is a tax receipt? So b'ksav shtei oisei sivani. It has to do the size of 2 Greek letters. 2 Greek letters are larger than 2 Hebrew letters. So the dafka has to be a larger amount, right? 2 Greek letters. That is the amount. That's the size of the paper where you can write 2 Greek letters. That's the size of the paper that's used for a tax receipt. It says, what about a piece of paper, right? A fresh piece of paper. How much is that? In order to write 2 letters, right? It sounds like only 2 Jewish letters you're chayiv, but if not, then you're pater. But it sounds like 2 Jewish letters. And earlier we said paper, they can be used for a tax receipt, which is 2 Greek letters, which is larger. So it sounds like it's a larger amount. So it seems to be a stira. It means the 2 letters of kesher muktzin, which is the Greek letters, which is the larger amount. And Rav Omar shtei osios didon ubeis achiza. The hainu kesher muktzin says no. Really, it means 2 letters, 2 Hebrew letters. 2 Hebrew letters, I thought it has to be the size of 2 Greek letters because that's the size of a tax receipt. So it says no. The amount of 2 Hebrew letters and a place to hold it. So you have to be able to hold it. Plus the 2 Hebrew letters is the same size as 2 Greek letters, right? So if Greek letters, let's say, are, it would take up, 3 square inches. I'm just, whatever, right? So 3 square inches, and Hebrew letters are just 2 square inches, right? But the 2 Hebrew letters and plus 1 square inch to hold it would be 3 square inches, which would be the same. So therefore, the brises are not a contradiction. So Meisvei Kasha, one who goes ahead and takes out a raised paper, shtar parua, or a shtar parua, a shtar that was already paid. Now, normally the way they have the documents are, you have a document, and once it's paid, right, then you basically return it to the borrower. The lender holds on to the paper, says, Randy owes me $100, right? Once Randy pays me the $100, I return him the document. And now Randy holds on to the document. If he's smart, he should go ahead and shred it. But the because then if I get it again, maybe I'll try and collect it again, because why is it in my hand? But that's it for other Gemaras we'll get to. But the point is, so if it's something which is already a paid document, or it's a document that you can no longer write on, so if they're now, so now this piece of paper is useless. Now, earlier we said in the Mishnah, useless paper is only good to go ahead and cover your flask. Okay, but let's say there's space along the edges of this star or this old piece of paper. So if there's enough space, right, along the margin to go ahead and write 2 letters, right, then it would be, then you'd be chai for that, because this still is useful paper to write upon, because you can write 2 letters. Or if it's large enough, the entire thing is large enough to go ahead and cover your flask, you'll also be chai. Otherwise, you're pater. So Bishlam Rav Sheshes, I understand the way Rav Sheshes answered of the Bryce earlier. When he said it has to be large enough for 2 letters, it has to be large enough for 2 letters of Greek letters, which is we use for now. This could become a tax document, right? This can become a tax receipt. So therefore, it makes sense over here. If there's space to make this a tax receipt, then it's okay. But Rava says when it says it has to be 2 letters, in other words, it means the 2 letters, Hebrew letters plus space to go ahead and hold it. So the Hainu Keshem Muksin, that's Keshem Muksin. Over here, it doesn't have to be Keshem Muksin. Why is that? Because he holds, remember, he holds that. Why do you need Keshem Muksin? 2 spaces for Hebrew letters and 1 space to hold it. But if you have, we just said, we're talking about a document that was already used, or one that you can no longer write about on most of it, and it was just along the edge. So I can use that area that I can no longer write on as the place to hold it. So I don't need in the margin as space where I can write 2 Hebrew letters and the place to hold it. The place to hold it is the rest of the star, right? I can just, all I need to be able to do is just a minimum amount of it, just be able to write Hebrew letters there. So kasha, the Gemara says, you're right, it's a good kasha. So Tanur Rabbanan, Hamaitzi kasha muksin ad shaloi hareu lemoiches chayev. One who has he paid his taxes. He has a receipt. Now he has the receipt. He has to go ahead and wait. Basically, find the tax collector who's going to come around town, and he needs to show him. So before he ever shows him, then he's chayiv. He's chayiv. Why? Because this is a chashuv piece of paper. This is something that someone would be matzniya. This is something that someone would save, and therefore it's chashuv. And therefore, since it's chashuv, therefore if he carries it, he's chayiv on Shabbos. But once he shows it to him, and the guy says, "Okay, you're done. You're ready. You paid your taxes for the year," then he's pater. Then he's pater because it's a useless piece of paper. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af misharil l'meiches chayiv mipnei shetzarich lo. No, even after he shows the guy, he still wants to keep it. He still needs it, and therefore, if he carries it out, it's considered to be chashuv, and therefore he's chayiv. So my benai, what's the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanos? The machlokes as to once it's paid, is it a useless piece of paper or not? Rabbi Yehuda says it's still useful, and the Rabbanan say it's useless, and therefore, since it's useless, it's like a piece of lint that one is not chayiv for carrying. So Amar Abaye. So now we're gonna have a couple terutzim. So Amar Abaye. So my Berayu. So Amar Abaye. Ika Berayu. Derehiti Muchsa. Right? You have a guy who's like the runner for the tax collector. So if you show him, right, then he might, even though you show the tax collector, but this guy still runs around, and this guy might come to you again to find out. So therefore, right, Rabbi Yehuda says you still have to show that guy that you pay the taxes, or else he's going to go ahead and submit your name, like you're going to be audited. And Rav Amar, Meiches Gadol, Meiches Katan Ika. Very similar concept. There's a Meiches Gadol, so you show the Meiches Gadol. The question is the Meiches Katan, like the smaller the assistant tax collector, maybe he'll start causing problems, and therefore, so you want to also go ahead and have it and save it and show it to him. And Rav Ashi Amar Chad Meiches Ika. Even if there's one, right? Or even if there's only one tax collector, but maybe he wants to go to another place, and basically he wants to show that, look, I'm a guy, I pay my taxes, and here is my taxes that I paid last time, so therefore he's a reason to keep it. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, is a reason to keep it, and according to the Rabbanan, no, a person does not save it. Now, Tana Rabbanan, very similar machlokes we have. Hamaitzi shtar choiv ad shaloi paro chayiv. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it comes to a loan document. A loan document is something that, normally when a person lends the money, the person who lends the money holds on to the loan document because that is what he's going to use to collect upon. Once it's paid, then basically, usually that goes back, either it gets torn up and it goes back to the person who borrowed the money, and obviously he's going to want to go ahead and get rid of it and not save it around. So, Maitzi shtar choiv ad shalei paro chayiv. One who goes ahead and takes out a shtar chov ad shalei paro chayiv. So if before it's collected, it's very chashuv, and therefore a person is going to use it to save it. So therefore he's chayiv. The person is chayiv for carrying it. Mishaparav. However, once it's paid, it's useless. Potter, right? So this would be sort of equivalent to the case of the tax collector. Once he shows the tax collector, it's useless. And once again, the same Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, even when he goes ahead and he pays it, right, it still is considered to be chashuv because he needs it. We'll soon see why he still needs it. So my benayu, what's the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan here? So Amar Rav Yosef, Asr lashes shtar parua ike benayu. The question is one allowed to go ahead and leave around a paid loan document? Now, if someone goes ahead and leaves around a paid loan document, perhaps it's usher, because what's going to happen? It's going to perhaps fall into the wrong hands, and the person might go ahead and come to use it again. So Rabbanan Savri Asur Lashes Shtar Parua. It's usher to go ahead and have a Shtar Parua. So since that it's usher to have it, it shouldn't be there. It's a worthless piece of paper, and therefore one who goes ahead and takes it out is potter because it's not considered to be something that's saved. And Rabbi Yehuda Saver, mutter lashes shtar parua. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it is mutter to go ahead and leave around a shtar parua, right? You could have it lying around, and in such a case, since he's allowed to have it around, therefore he can use it for other purposes, such as covering his flask. And therefore, since it's something which has a use, therefore it's considered a chashuv, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda would say you're a chayiv for going ahead and carrying it. That was one teretz. And Abai Omar, the kuliyam asalasha shtar parua. Everyone holds really a shtar parua should be destroyed. But over here, b'mayde shtar shekasot shetzarech lekaimo kamiflig. The machlokes in terms of a case of a person admits that this is a shtar. A guy says, yes, this shtar, I borrowed money, right? Case Randy lends me money, right? He's a big financial institution. I borrowed $100 from him, and I write a shtar. And Randy has a shtar that says, Yoel Goldberg borrowed money from Randy, and there's witnesses on it. Let's say we don't have the witnesses around, but I say to Randy, I say, yes, this is a shtar. I did borrow money. And then I go on to say whether or not I still owe money or I paid him back. So does Randy, once I admit that this shtar was legit at one point in time, does Randy still need to go ahead and prove that I still owe him the money by basically, bringing the witnesses and having people testify about the signatures, or by the fact that if I admitted it was a good shtar, right? And if I would have paid him back, I would have taken the shtar back. But by the fact that he still has the shtar in his possession, it must be it wasn't paid. So once I admit that it's a good shtar, I no longer have any claim to say that it was paid. We don't say peshas or peshahit here because he has it in his possession. So that's the machlokes here. So over here it's a machlokes whether the shtar has to be go ahead and basically authenticated for him to collect. So what do the Rabbanan hold? So Tanakama hold that no, that just because I say it doesn't mean anything, right? Therefore, he still needs witnesses to go ahead and testify that I stole the money. He has to have it verified, right? And therefore, in such a case, it's not. There is no power to it unless it's verified. And since it wasn't verified, it's useless, and therefore one would be pater. Once I admitted that this is a good, valid shtar, even if I say I already paid it or it no longer applies, he forgave the loan, whatever it was, then ain't kaimo. And what does it mean when it was paid or wasn't paid? So ma ad shelo paro mishaparo. What does it mean? What does the lashon mean? Because the Brisa says, right, ad shelo paro chayiv and mishapar. Once it was paid, then that's the machlokes. Once it was paid, what does that mean? So what does it mean? So ad sheyomer loy v'parati v'loy parati, until the borrower says whether I paid or not. So even if I say, right, once I say I paid or I didn't pay, that's the point we're talking about. So if I say I paid it, according to the Tanakama, right? He still has to be mekayim. It's useless. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, once I say that yes, I did go ahead and I paid it, right? So then in such a case, he would hold that he can still collect it, and therefore, since he can still go ahead and collect it because he doesn't need to go ahead and verify it, then one would be, therefore it's a chashuv document, and since it's a chashuv document, therefore he would be chayav for carrying it. And Rav Amar, the kuliyam moed b'shtar shekasut tzarich lekaimo. And Rav says, no, everyone holds really that one who admits to a shtar that he has to be mekayim it. In other words, he needs witnesses to authenticate it, right? So if that's the case, right? So what's the machlokes in this case? Over here, whether you write a receipt. Tanakama saver kais and shaver. Tanakama holds you write a shaver, you write a receipt. And since you write a receipt, okay, so normally when I pay it, there is a receipt. You're allowed to go ahead and write a receipt. So therefore, if you're allowed to go ahead and write a receipt, therefore there is no need. Why do you still? The document is useless, right? Because I have the receipt. So therefore, since the document is useless, therefore he would be patur. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds ein kais v'en shaver, that you do not write a receipt. In other words, that you have to go ahead and tear it up, right? Since you don't write receipts, and therefore there are times when documents are around. So therefore, if you don't write receipts, the only reason why the document is around is because it's still collectible. And since it's still collectible, that makes it chashuv according to Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda would say you are chayiv for going ahead and carrying it. And finally, the last here it says Rav Ashi Omar mipnei shetzarich laros lebal chayiv sheni damalei chazik avad deparana. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say that this is still chashuv? Rabbi Yehuda says it's still chashuv. Why is that? He says because he wants to go ahead and show other borrowers, hey, I'm good for my word. Right? I go ahead and I pay back my loans. So oftentimes people will save a pay load document for the purpose of showing a future lender. And since he wants to show a future lender, therefore it's chashuv. And therefore Rabbi Yehuda holds he's chayiv for saving it. And the Rabbanan don't hold the svara, and they say, no, that you're patur from carrying it because once it's paid off, it's a useless piece of paper. Fine.
Wouldn't the size of even a shover be chayiv?
Well, a shover is
the receipt.
Chashuv. Right, but we're talking about if the loan document that was paid was, let's say, smaller than cover for a flask, right? Then, is by the fact that it's a loan document, is it chashuv? In other words, do we view it as a chashuv document, or do we view it as a piece of paper that you can't write on? And if it's a piece of paper you can't write on, then it gets, classified as something which is its only use is to cover a flask. In other words, if the content of the article is important, then that makes that document chashuv where one will be chayiv for. But if the content is not,
so you would be chayiv for a shover too.
So shover you would be chayiv because the guy says, hey, because if you write receipts, that means he doesn't give him back the loan document, right? Randy doesn't give me back the loan document. He just gives me a receipt. So therefore, the receipt is very important to me. Why? Because the receipt will show that if ever gets produced again, then or let's say Randy says at the time, I can't find the loan, right? I can't find the documents, but I'll write your receipt. So there's a machlokes. A guy can say, hey, you know what? If you don't give me back the loan documents, I'm not paying you back. Right, I'm not paying you back because what's going to happen? Later on, you're going to produce it on me. Now others say no, you're allowed to write a receipt, and that's good enough proof. So that's the machlokes over there. That's more of a machlokes in I think in Baba Basra, I guess, or the Baba Metzia. Fine, 2 dots. Now let's get to hide or right or. So we say or kadei lasais to make an amulet. So Baimine Rav Meir Rav Nachman hamaitzi or bekama. How much does one have to take out hide in order to, how much? Amalek, because it's not within the Mishnah, or in order to hide, to carry out, in order to go ahead and make an amulet. What a hamavda become? One who goes ahead and tans on Shabbos, right? How much do you have to tan? Hides on Shabbos b'chayiv. Amalei lo shna. There's no difference. In other words, also the size to tan the amount of an amulet. And the avda become. What about to carry out something that's going to be tanned? Once again, amalei lo shna. It doesn't make a difference. Umina tema. All right, and where do we see this from? We learn in the Mishnah. We learn in the Mishnah later on. It says hamalavein v'amenafetz v'atzaveya v'atvia. One who goes ahead and he whitens and he combs and he dyes and he spins. So shira kamali reicha v'asit kafel. The amount is that to be the width, the distance of a seat, right, or a double of a seat. The seat is between, I guess, two fingers. So the double of this amount. So it probably be that. So, this amount, or whatever it is, in order for these different raw materials, you're chayav for, right? So that is the amount you have to do, even with the materials. And if you carry those materials, right? And one who goes ahead and weaves, and shira kamale roichedasit, right? And the shear of it is the amount to go ahead and the one who weaves sheikhut, and shir kamale roichedasit, and that the amount of weaving is the amount of even one seat, not two seats. So Alma, what do you see over there? Since over there those materials can be used to spin thread, right? Therefore, right, their shear is, right, like that of one who spins it, even though it's only the raw material, right? So in Hachanami, so too over here, so too over here, since the amount, right, that for one is going to be tanned, right, is the amount of an amulet. So therefore, the amount of tanning is an amulet. In other words, so the two are connected, right? So shola abdai bekama. But what about something that cannot be tanned? Let's say it's not summer. Also, once again, the size of an amulet. If it's not going to be, it can't be tanned. So Gemara says, right? But you can't. There's no difference between something, right, that is tanned and is not. One who goes ahead and carries out spices that have been soaked, right? How much is someone in shiruim, right? So now these those, in order to carry those out, if they've already been soaked, so they can be used to dye different dugmas, different samples, right? For a person who wants to go ahead and take it on mark. That is the shear. Once these have been soaked, therefore the minimum shear is a small amount of even a sample. However, but when it comes to different herbs or spices that have not been soaked, right? So like klipe agayzim and klipe remainim and satis of pua, such as different types of covers or whatever, shells of nuts and rimonim pomegranates and the peels, right? Or different types of seeds. Kadei lead to a behen beged cotton lefi savel. In order to go ahead and color, right, a beged cotton, like a small garment, I guess, is placed on a hat, so which is a larger amount. So we see that stuff that was already soaked, materials that were soaked, which can be used for for samples, that's a smaller amount, and stuff that has yet to be soaked, right, to go through that process is a much larger amount. So even though it's the same raw material, it has to do whether it was processed. So why is tanning the same? Why does it not make a difference whether something was tanned or untanned? So we say like this. No. Because a person will not go ahead and go through all the effort of steaming herbs and different spices in order to go ahead and make a sample. So in other words, if the person is going through an effort to do that, then it's a much smaller shear. But once, right, once that was already done, then it's a smaller shear. But to go ahead through the process, then it's a smaller amount. So when it comes to the raw materials is going to be more. It's only after it was processed, that's when we say that once it was processed, then it's a smaller shear. Otherwise, if it's just the raw materials, then it's a much larger amount because the person's not going to go through all the effort just to do for a small sample size, right? Such as, right, v'harei zirani gina. Right, let's take a look at the seeds, right, of a garden. Before they're planted, right? Zaroni gina pachas megragras, right? One who goes ahead and carries out garden seeds, right? Less, right? You can go ahead and less than a dried fig. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Meir Chamish has to be 5. But once it's something is already planted, and these, one seed makes one plant, and once the seeds are planted, Zeva v'chol hadak, right? Once you go ahead and you have a fertilizer, right, or other stuff, chol, sand, which is used to go ahead and help it grow, in order to do one thing of kruv, one cabbage. And even a leek, right? So we see it's a much smaller amount. Only I thought we said 5 or more, right? So right? When it comes to planting, so then a person doesn't just plant one seed, he'll plant multiple seeds. But when it comes to basically fertilizing and keeping up, then a person will go ahead and do that even to a smaller amount, right? Because a person doesn't take one out to go ahead and plant it. So therefore, there's different amounts. In other words, once something is already processed, then it'll be a smaller share. But if it's unprocessed, then a person won't go through the entire tircha to go ahead and process it unless it's a larger amount. Right? And we saw this example earlier. We'll bring this example up again. What about, let's say, a case of clay? Before one goes and kneads it, the clay. So we said over there, Tani, we learned in Bryce, it says, we said over there that in order to go ahead and take out water, which is poured out, what else can we water use? You can use it to mix it and make clay, right? So that, how much is that? That's a revis. But then we said, we ask, what's it good for? As a teat. Right, to go ahead and to mix it with the clay. Then after you go ahead and knead it. It's only the small amount to be for the whole of a kur, right? Which is a much smaller amount. So in other words, what do you mean? I thought the shear of the water is the amount to make a revis, which is a large amount of clay. And then you say when it comes, because that's the amount of carrying water. But when it comes to carrying clay, right, which is already made, then it's much smaller. So hasanami kedama, like we said, a person will not go ahead and go through the entire process of kneading and making clay for a small amount. You're going to make a big batch, right? You're not, when you make cookies, right? Even though a cookie itself is chashuv, but you're not going to go ahead and go through all the process of making cookies just for one cookie, right? You'll make a lot, and then even the smaller amounts are chashuv. But in order the process to do it, then a person doesn't just do one singular. So Tashba, come and listen. There are 3 types of iris, of hide. Matzah, the chipa, the diftera. Right? These are 3 types of hides in terms of the amount of processing or what they're able to be processable. So let's see. Matzah. Kamashmo, right? Matzah is like it sounds, right? Matzah is very simple, right? You don't add to it too much. Delay maliach, delay kamiach, delay ofitz, right? They didn't add any salt, they didn't add any flour, right? And they didn't also add any sort of gallnuts to it. The kama shear, and what is the shear to carry out this type of matzah hide, right? The kama shear is a Tana Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, k'dei lotzer bo mishkalos. In order to go ahead and wrap it, to go ahead and put weights in it. The common, how big are these weights? I'm going to buy a riva de pumbedisa, right? A quarter of a pumbedisa. That was the amount of hide. I guess you put the weights inside, and that was used. That's the minimum usable amount of this type of hide because it wasn't used at all. Chipa. And chipa, which is the hide, is the maliach, which is salt of loy k'mech v'lo yafitz. However, there was no flour or gallnuts. The kama shear and how was the shear? Could the with the Mishnah or kedilasas kameya. That's what we make a kameya on, right? You can write on this type of hide. You can't write on the other. And the matzah hide, that's only used for wrapping weights. But this one, you can even smaller because this one you can make an amulet out of it. And since you can make an amulet, therefore that is the minimum shear. And diftera, the maliach or kamecha delafitz. And diftera is salted. There's flour applied in the process. However, v'loy afitz. It's not afitz, right? There is no afitz. There is no gallnuts in it. The kama shear, and how much is the shear that can be used? In order to write the get, which is even a smaller amount, because all the get needs to say is that she's muteres l'chol adam, the names and the witnesses. So therefore, since that's even smaller than amulet, so therefore the shear of this type of
diphthera is
even smaller.
Diphthera is parchment, right?
Well, no, we'll soon get to. It's not parchment yet, right? We'll soon see. We'll get there.
Oh, it's not. It's
Yeah.
something other than
We'll soon
parchment.
see. Well, yeah, because there's actually going to be three types of parchment that are used for safras. So let's see. Katani mias. Nevertheless, it says kadur latzur b'mashkol katana. Whenever the first type we said the hide that wasn't used at all, right, is what its shear is once again to wrap other things in it. So Vamar Abaye, the Pumadisa, right, which is a quarter of a Pumadisa, much larger. So once again, why over there that we see that different parts of tanned, whether something is a process or not, right, it does differ. So why did we say earlier the answer was lo shna? It doesn't make a difference whether it's tan or no tan. It's the size of an amulet. Over here we see it's not the size of an amulet. If it's unprocessed, completely unprocessed, it's much larger. So Hasam B'Shula. Over there, when it was wet, right? As Rashi points out, as lach, right? It was wet, and therefore, if something is wet, then it can't be used. So therefore, then it can't be used as an amulet at all. So therefore, it would be a much larger shear. We saw this earlier when it comes to for tumas medris. It says habeged shloisha shloisha the medris for a garment, clothing, right, cloth. Then it's 3 by 3 tvachim. Sak arba alar, and sackcloth is 4 by 4. Haor, right, leather, which is our case, is chamisha 5 by 5, much larger. And mafis shisha shisha. And when it comes to the reed mats, it's 6 by 6. Bein lemedus, bein lemes. That both for tumas medus and tumas mace. The Tani Alon says over there on this, habeged vasak vaor kashila tuma kach shiur lehotza. Just like these are the measurements when it comes to tuma, right? 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5. So too, that is the amount of hotzah, of carrying on a Shabbos. So what do you mean? You said before that amount to make an amulet, right? Over here, it seems to be 5 by 5 for hotzah. Sahu bekortuvla. That's bekortuvla, which is, I guess, only is very hard and you can't write on it. It can only be used for furniture, and therefore it's only be used for furniture. Therefore, it's 5 by 5 or for sitting upon, and that was the case over there by Tumas Medras. But if it comes to writing upon, then if you write on it, then it's the size of an amulet. Now,
is that etzbaos?
I think that is tvachim over there. Yeah, we say tvachim.
Tvachim or etzbaos?
Yeah, tvachim. Yeah.
Tvachim.
The shlosha is tvachim. If it's shalosh al shalosh, then it'll be etzbos.
Okay.
Fine. Let's see. So klaf. Now let's get to the klaf you asked earlier. So top of the page of Ein Testament base. Klaf k'dei lichtav alav parsha katan. In order to write a small parsha of Shema Yisrael in the tefillah. So that is a klaf. All right. So the iver minas v'kasha klaf v'duchstustus. Right. So klaf, there's klaf, and duchstustus, right? That is another type of hide. They're both made from the animal. Right? We'll soon see one is the inside, one is the outside. They're different materials. So kadei lichtov alav mezuzah. The minimum amount is right a mezuzah. Now mezuzah, so a mezuzah has 2 parshios in it, both Shema and Vayayim Shema. So there's 2 parshios there, which is larger than 1. So which one is it? So it says a very klaf is also to write a mezuzah. So my mezuzah shabbat tefillin. It means the mezuzah tefillin, meaning referring to the parchment. It's just calling it the parchment of the tefillin, which is referring to only one paragraph of Shema.
Rashi on the previous summud says it's hein atzbaos.
The what?
It's atzbaos.
In which case?
Look at the not the last Rashi, but the second to the last Rashi. Shlosha al Shlosha, or third to the last Rashi, the Tumim Smedris, it says Shalosh al Shalosh Hein Atzbaos.
Well, Lamaga, right? When it comes to Tuma, Kachshel Shabbos, Alma Shemu Chamisha Tfachim. So, you were asking on what's it called? You're asking a hide. Look at the next Rashi, and hide. Kachshel Hotza Shabbos, Alma Shein Ma'avdei Chamisha Tfachim. Binan umasni, right?
Kamisha tefachim.
Right.
Okay. So shlosha al shlosha refers to etzbaos, but when it goes to
I think when it switches over from tuma to for tuma and hotzah, for tuma and hotzah.
To hotzah,
Right.
Oh, so now we're talking
For
about
tuma of beged is what's it called? Is
clothing.
yeah. But when it comes to our case,
Okay.
we're only asking about we were asking about leather. All right, but let's go on. Let's go on in our case. We got to finish up soon. So we say, the Karlu tefillin mezuzah. Do we call tefillin mezuzah? I mean, tefillin mezuzah is mezuzah. Gemara says, yeah, we have an example. About time he's learning brisa. Retzuis tefillin imat tefillin. If the straps of the tefillin are attached to the tefillin, metamas hasidayim, then person, normally they're misaking that a person, his hands were tummy if he touched parchment. So even if he touched the retzuas, they're attached, right? Then metamas hasidayim, then it's matama the hands. However, if the retzuas, the straps were not attached to the tefillin, then a metamas hasidayim, they would not be matama the hands. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Hanageya b'ritzua tahor. One who touches the ritzua is tahor ad shegeba katzitza, until he touches the actual box. Then his hands is tamei. Zakai mishmei omer, and he says no in his name tahor ad shegeba mezuzah atzma, until he touches the mezuzah itself. So you see over here, he uses the word mezuzah when we're talking about tefillin, right? The straps of tefillin, and then it says until you touch the parchment, which is the mezuzah. So you see, it's called mezuzah. The Hamikdash Save. The Save over there says klaf k'dei lichta v'lo parsha k'tana shebetfillin. So klaf is in order for you to go ahead and touch the parsha tefillin, shehi Shema Yisrael, which is Shema Yisrael. Mechlal dereisha b'mezuzah atzmos kinan, right? The reisha which says we're talking about mezuzah. In other words, if by klaf is talking about this, then that which is said in the reisha is which it says klaf dechsusus, right? Kadei lichtav ala mezuzah. If over here it's specified Shema Yisrael, it must be where it says mezuzah earlier was actually talking about mezuzah two parshas. So Gemara says hachitan. This means to say klaf. How much is klaf in order to be chayav for, and how much is for duchsusus? The duchsusus kadei lichtav alav mezuzah. Since, as we'll soon see, duchsusus is used to write the mezuzah, right? Therefore, that type of parchment, right, one is chayav for only when he has the minimum share of writing two paragraphs of the mezuzah. And klaf, which we only use tefillin for and not duchsusus. So therefore, the klaf, in order to write the small parsha tefillin, which is Shema Yisrael. And Omer Rav says, Rav, duchsusus harei klaf. So he makes a statement, right? We're trying to understand the statement of Rav. Duchsusus is just like klaf. What does that mean? They're both types of parchments. So what does it mean? Ma klaf kaisin al tefillin. After duchsusus kaisin al tefillin. Just like by klaf, you write tefillin on it. So too, you can use duchsusus also for your tefillin. So Gemara says, Tanan klaf kadei lichto parsha ketana shebetfillin shehi Shema Yisrael. So it sounds like only klaf that he had written Shema Yisrael. But if duchsusus, you can write on it tefillin. Why can't Shema Yisrael also be the minimum requirement of duchsusus? So Gemara says lemitzvah. No, that's lechatchila. So Gemara says lechatchila. So Tashmaka, listen, halach l'moshe misinai tefillin ala klaf. The tefillin is written on the klaf. Umezuzah al duchsusus. And mezuzah is written on the duchsusus, and klaf b'makom basar. And when we write on the klaf, that is on the inside of the klaf, which is towards the flesh. And duchsusus b'makom seyar. And duchsusus is actually the inner part of the parchment, but that's facing the hair on the outside, right? So in other words, the klaf is really the outer part, and then you write on the inside of it towards the flesh. And the duchsusus is actually the inside of the parchment, and you write on the outer part facing the hair. Those are two ones. So we see that each one is separate. So how can you start using duchsusus both for mezuzah and tefillin? So once again, the Gemara says the mitzvah lechatchila. It says over there, if you change it, it's possible. It means it's not just lechatchila lemitzvah. It means even b'diavad. So Gemara says, no, mezuzah. Maybe the mezuzah is even b'diavad the other way. So Tanya shina b'zeh pasul. Either one of them sounds like either one of them, meaning either mezuzah or tefillin. You can't flip it around. So Gemara says, no, maybe when it says shina, when you change this one or that one, it's referring to either mezuzah. It's called a mezuzah. And maybe it means to say that if you write on the duchsusus on the opposite side, normally on the duchsusus we said on the hair side, if you write it on the inside, or the klaf, we say you're supposed to do on the flesh side, on the basar side, if you write on the outside, maybe that's what it meant, that if you switch it all, then it's possible. But if you go ahead and write duchsusus or tefillin on duchsusus, perhaps that's okay. Or if iboy sema. Right? Really, it's machlokes if you switch it around, right? If you write use duchsusus or klaf for the wrong ones, the tanya of the brisa, shina b'zeh possible. If you switch one to the other, it's possible. Rabbi Achai, machshim ashum, Rabbi Achai bar Chanina, And Rabbi Yaakov is machshir in the name of Rabbi Yaakov Ber Chanina. And some say Mishum Rabbi Yaakov Ber Chanina. So he and they say no, they can even go ahead and match even if you're right. Tefillin dechsus is machlos tanaim. Rav Papa Mar Rav the Amar Ketana debate the Menashe. No, Rav holds like Ketana de Menashe. The Ketana de Menashe kasval aniyar valamatlis psula. If one goes ahead and writes, we'll soon see what it's referring to. If it writes it on either paper or matlis is cloth, it's psula. However, if it writes on a cloth, vala gavil, right? Gavil is like the entire parchment, the combination of the cloth and the sluxus, or the sluxus is kshera. So we see that whatever we're talking about here is mutter on all three. It's not just only cloth or only duchstus. It's all of them. It's the same type of parchment. So kasamai, we're talking about elim mezuzah. If we're talking about mezuzah, so mezuzah a cloth mikasvinan, right? Do we say you're allowed to write mezuzah on cloth? No, we said mezuzah you should only write on duchstus. So el lava tefillin. It must be referring to the tefillin. So he says, according to you, tefillin agavil mikasvinan. Can you write tefillin even if you write tefillin not only on cloth but even duchstus? Who said you can write on the gavil on the entire parchment? So ella kitanya hi the sefer Torah. Rather, we're talking about a Sefer Torah. We're not talking about tefillin or mezuzah. We're talking about Sefer Torah. So Sefer Torah. So that's what we said. If you write it on cloth or gvil or duchstus, any three of these which come from the hide of the animals, then that would be okay. So Leiv Messiah, let's say we have proof Kiyetzba. It says there tefillin shavalu. If you have tefillin that were going bad, if a Sefer Torah shavalu or Sefer Torah that was going bad, it was getting old, Ein oisin mehen mezuzah. You can't go ahead and cut out the pieces of Shema or the parshas and make for there and use it as a mezuzah. Why? Because we don't go ahead and go from a one kedusha chamor to a lower kedusha, right? Sefer Torah is the highest, then tefillin, then mezuzah. So you can't take something that was you can't be married with kedusha, take something that was holier and then move it down. So tamad emaridin though. Sounds like the only reason is because emaridin b'kedusha. But if you were allowed to icing, you would be the ksiva amai. Well, why would you be able to do it? Lav diksiva duchstustus, right? Why would you be able to do it? So what was it written on, right? Was not written on duchstustus, right? That you can go ahead and take it. Obviously, if it was on cloth, you couldn't use cloth for that. So it must be that the tefillin was written on duchstustus. So Gemara says, no, the ksiva al cloth. No, it was written on a cloth, and that we suggest, if it wasn't for the read of Emerim B'Kedusha, you would have been able to use the cloth for your tefillin. You would have been able to use the cloth for your mezuzah to lower it down. Gemara says, mezuzah cloth mikasvinan. Can you go ahead and use cloth for mezuzah? We said you can only use duchstustus for mezuzah, and it was a machlokes when it comes to tefillin if you can use both cloth and duchstustus. But everyone holds that mezuzah you can only use duchstustus. So Gemara says, actually, yes. But Tanya, as we learn, kosval klaf alanir amatlis psula. If one goes ahead and he writes a mezuzah on the klaf or niyar or matlis is psula, and Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Meir haya kosval klaf mipnei shemishtameres. Rabbi Meir would even go ahead and write his mezuzah even on a klaf, not only on a duchstustus, but Rabbi Meir held b'shita. You're allowed to go ahead and write your mezuzah also on a klaf, and therefore it was the same material as that of tefillin. And the Hashda, so the Hakan now we say this: Rav Nami loitim duchstustus harei klaf. Don't say that according to Rav that the duchstustus harei klaf. Ella ema klaf harehu duchstustus. That klaf is just like duchstustus. Howsa ma duchstustus kaisvin alav mezuzah. Just like this, so you can go ahead and write mezuzah on it. Av klaf kaisvin alav mezuzah. So too by klaf you can go ahead and write mezuzah. So in other words, it comes out like this: that by mezuzah you can write on both klaf or duchstustus, like Rabbi Meir. And when it comes to tefillin, then for sure klaf. And then there's a machlokes earlier as to whether you can go ahead and also use duchstustus for tefillin. We'll stop here. And I mentioned before, those who were not with us, so tomorrow, Meretz Hashem, we'll also try and do 2 blot. We'll get ahead before Shavuos. Therefore, we won't fall behind. So tomorrow, once again, 7:30. And hopefully, if the blot are short, we'll be able to do 2 blot tomorrow. Everyone should have a wonderful day and enjoy the nice weather. Safe. All right.